This podcast is brought to you by the Spur of the Moment podcast and by the Down the Middle podcast.
From Hollywood, California, the manager that we all love, David Firestone.
Welcome to the Road to Stardom with David Firestone. Today's story is more about people you meet in life that can change your direction. So when you're in Hollywood or wherever you may be in the world, always be nice to those around you because you never know who you might be talking to. And engage with people around you. Don't be afraid. Don't be fearful. Just talk and chat about what you do, who you are, in a respectful manner. I know many of you know that, but it's always good to have a reminder. In fact, the individual we have coming up on today's podcast actually met through social media, through Facebook. So you can meet great people online also. Just have to be careful who you talk to and get to know them a little bit before you engage. This story is more of an in-person story, and it's about a little bit of a plug for a company that we've done a lot of production work with. It's now called Mindatorium.com, www.mindatorium.com. And this was pre-COVID. And I was at what was then called the Montage in Beverly Hills. It's now called the Mayborn. Still a very nice place to meet. And I was there with the talent. We were meeting together. I think it was a Sunday or Saturday. Sunday was a weird night. We just have schedules were conflicting, and we're having a coffee. Very nice talent, great commercial talent. And we were chatting. And there was a group, about 3 or 4 tables in a corner area they had in the cafe. That was a very vibrant conversation. A lot of people were chatting and talking. It looked interesting, and they were looking at me. I looked over at them briefly. And then what I found out later was the publicist for the group came over to our table where we were sitting, and she asked, "Are you a talent agent?" I'm a talent manager, but we do similar things here in Hollywood. Well, I'd love you to meet our director, Eddie Morales. I thought, okay, well, we'll be here for a little bit. It'd be great to meet him. And the funny part of the story is, earlier that evening, there was a restroom around the corner. And I'm from the East Coast originally, outside of Philadelphia, and I know Jersey very well. Philadelphia almost too well. And had a lot of fun times there. But New Jersey people had New York people have a certain walk, a certain way of walking and talking. And I saw this gentleman earlier. We just kind of get up at the same time to use the facilities. And I saw him walking, and in my mind, I'm like, this gentleman has to be from Jersey. Maybe New York, but I think it's more of a Jersey walk. It has a lot of attitude in it. And after that, we went back to my meeting with our talent and started talking and thinking anything of it. And then after the publicist came over, she brought Eddie Morales over a few minutes later. And it was him. It was the dude. It was the guy who had the Jersey walk. So it turned out we hit it off right away because we both were from that area. And it went from a meeting to meeting his associate. Great guy, Ashkan Tabibdia, really great networker based in Beverly Hills in the realty and money businesses. Great guy. And from there, it branched off into, how many films did we do? We did 4 feature films. I believe we did 4 featurettes, which are, say, 45, 50-minute films. That's 8, and about 4 short films together, co-produced. We had almost 30 of our talent in his films. So that's how things can happen. and change your life with a chance meeting when you're out and about doing things. So be out. The moral of the story is be out and about, not just in person, but also out and about on social media. Be respectful. Check them out so you know they're real on social media. Obviously in person it's a little easier, but in any business in life that's important, but especially in Hollywood, because you just never know who you might meet when you're out. And they could be dressed casually, nicely, relaxed. You just don't know who you're sitting next to. So always be respectful and mindful of your fellow human beings. We'll talk soon and look forward to our upcoming podcast. Thank you.
So today's episode is sponsored by the Spur of the Moment Podcast, everybody. Come join us every Saturday, and we're going to do this. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk about the news. Time to talk about the Minecraft.
Okay.
It looks bad. So we're going to talk about movies. That new Joker movie is apparently terrible, and I want to see it so badly because I hear it's awful. And we're going to make some jokes. We're going to have some laughs.
There's a lot of funny jokes in there. There's a lot of weird jokes in there. The Channing Tatum one will always make me laugh. Especially when you hear the behind the scenes stuff, like when you hear the behind the scenes story of how they just phoned them up.
We're occasionally going to have other people along for the ride.
A really fun fact though is I learned last year that that Coraline was Leica and not Disney.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I can see why you would make that mistake. Yeah. Because it does seem like it's a different. And to be fair,
that would be a horrifying, terrible Disney movie.
It would be because yeah. And we're just gonna have a generally good time. George, do you have anything else you want to say about our podcast? Make people watch it.
We watch movies. Sometimes we watch shows, but we always have fun.
Here
on the spur. 3, 2, 1. On the spur of the podcast moment.
Yeah, we nailed it. Nailed it. Podcast. Yeah. It's Spur of the Moment Podcast every Saturday. We nailed it.
You can expect awesome content like that.
We cut flawless promos every single week.
But square cut or pear shape, these rocks don't lose their shape. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. Tiffany's. Cartier.
Erin Gavin, welcome to the Road to Stardom with David Firestone. It's so wonderful to have Erin on the podcast because Erin, this is the first podcast we've done without one of our actors. You're like the first in line of someone who's done a lot of great things and is not necessarily part of Firestone Talent. So it's great to have you here. Erin is a actress, recording artist, and a director. So quite an achievement over the years, Erin. And now, could you tell our audience where you're from originally?
Hi, so I'm from Scotland and very proud to be Scottish. Good people. The weather's terrible, but don't let that put you off visiting.
Yes, the old Scotland. I've been to the UK, but never officially to Scotland. So maybe you'll get me excited enough to go over there and visit Scotland sometime. And maybe I could wear one of those. What are those things called that the men wear over there? The little Scottish kilt.
Yeah, get you in a kilt.
Did you know a fun fact in the movie business that there was one James Bond and there's a different actor? It wasn't Sean Connery. It was the one that kind of came in the middle. And his name is escaping me, that he wore a Scottish kilt in the James Bond movie series. Yes.
Oh.
Did you know that?
No.
I was watching it the other day. I have to look up on IMDb. I don't have it here in front of me to look up the name of the actor. He was a one-time guy and he did a nice job. And he wore a kilt.
Nice. As long as not everybody can pull off a kilt, so
Right.
have to have the legs for it.
Right, exactly. Well, it's great to have you on board. Enough of this tomfoolery and funning around. And actually we just were at an event, and you were great. You sang the classic Marilyn Monroe song and showing what a great recording artist you are. We had the video up on social media for a minute, and you look great in that. And it was to honor the vets at the local hotel, Ziggy Hotel in Hollywood Boulevard. So it was really nice to be there and support your effort in that regard. You did a great job. So you're welcome. So that leads into the whole topic of what are you doing now? Where have you been as an actress and a recording artist and director? Where are you going? What's the story here?
Oh, I know. I wear many hats. Well, for me, okay, so obviously, like, that I've played Marilyn Monroe, but I'll tell the audience. So I played when I first came to LA. I was like just a young spring chicken, if you like, with a suitcase and a head full of hope.
Right.
And I left everything behind in Scotland, family, a boyfriend at the time, everything.
Oh boy.
Oh, I know. But I thought, go and get one shot. I'm just gonna go for it. I went through when I first moved here, you obviously have a very positive outlook. I ran into some obstacles along the way, as you do, with lots of different aspects of life, like where you're gonna live, auditions and getting the parts, and then the film falling through and all of that jazz. And like many actresses and actors who can relate to this, there is a point where you go, oh gosh, should I just go home where I'm working and I get working? But then something in me was just like, I'm not ready to, I'm not giving up the fight. I'm not doing it. So that very day, I got a call to come in to play for casting to play Marilyn Monroe. And
This was in the UK, is that correct?
no, this is all in the US.
All in the US. Oh, this is all in the US. Okay. So here you get it. Okay, cool. All right.
So what I'm saying is, like, I came over here and
right.
These were the pitfalls and the highs that I experienced.
Right.
So obviously I got a lot of work at home before I left. I was, doing great. I was comfortable. I could have continued, but of course I wanted a bigger challenge. And so I decided to pack a suitcase and move to LA from Scotland. So I went for this audition. And I was at that little brink where other people can relate, where I thought, is this worth it? Should I just go back home? But I wasn't ready to give up the fight. So I went for the audition. And the night before the audition, I got hit by a car.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I ended up in Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and I'd fractured my hip and I really hit my head hard off the ground. So I missed the audition. I missed the audition. However, that little fight in me that was like, still not ready to give up.
Right.
So 3 weeks later, I reached out to the casting director and I said, I don't know if you've casted your Marilyn, but I would still love the opportunity. And she said, put yourself on tape singing Happy Birthday, Mr. President. So I did. And she said, okay, when you feel a little better, can you come in the next few weeks? So I hobbled in, as you do, and I did the audition for over an hour. I worked with one of the other actors playing one of the other characters who played Bobby Kennedy, who, by the way, I married later on in life, which is funny. So I booked the part that day, and it was like love, so music to my ears. I had booked this role, and this is like an obscene role to book. It was the lead in a play that was already a hit and doing really well, and I was taken over. And what an amazing experience. And so I guess from that story, what I would say to people out there is don't give up the fight, because sometimes when you're just ready to like throw in the towel, that's when you that is when like your luck starts to change. But so then I went on to play Marilyn, and I played Marilyn for numerous years, and I played her in 2 hit plays. I played her off Broadway. I played her in the West End of London. We
You
went
played Marilyn on Broadway also. Besides, I remember you told me
Broadway.
the West End, but you also played on Broadway. Wow, fantastic!
Yeah, off Broadway. And we won top 10 shows in the US. I opened the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh. And then from there, I did a bunch of other things. Like I did a podcast, not podcast, sorry, a mini series on a podcast as Marilyn. I did a mini series, I did a film, I did a documentary. So it kept rolling. I just kept playing Marilyn Monroe. And it got to a point where I was like, I need to play another character. I just get typecasted, which of course, great character to get typecasted as. However, so I did a couple of other things out of that, and then I realized, I'd love to I'd love to do my own storytelling. Which
What? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said there.
I'd love to tell stories myself, be a
I see.
filmmaker. And that's where the direction came in. So this year I decided I wanted to make a film. And I would start off with a short film. And that's when I made the short film Gaming for Love. I wrote it in January and we shot it in February, and I had the first cut in March. Um, And I had read all these articles, really quite similar, about terminally ill kids turning to gaming, and there was one or two that really like popped out at me. And so I decided to sort of like amalgamate them together and create Gaming for Love. And I called in every favor possible. I was like, help, I swallowed my pride and did a GoFundMe. I just tried my best to raise some funds, and we shot it all in Scotland. And honestly, like it was probably one of the best things I ever did, because it then snowballed. I put it into film festivals and it just kept winning. Like it was surreal to me. It just kept winning. And then
Right.
someone said I should submit it for contention for consideration for best live action short film. I'm not allowed to mention what that is exactly, but let's just say it's the mecca of the business.
The Mecca. I like that. The Mecca. Yes.
So if I get nominated, that would be honestly amazing for everybody involved. And the story is it's a beautiful story. And if you like, I can share a little bit with you.
Sure. Before we do that, I'd love to talk a little bit more about your path, because this podcast is about about trying to share stories about acting in the business, right? And you said a lot of things in that are really awesome. And the thing I love the most is I'm just curious, how many years were you acting before you had that little incident and then got the Marilyn Monroe part? Was that a 5-year or 6-year? Just to give actors an idea, no one comes out of nowhere, right? So I'm wondering how long you have been acting, if you don't mind talking about that.
So I came to America in my 20s. And I was already working as an actress in London and in Scotland. So I actually started acting when I was a kid.
Wow.
So I was 6 or something, 6 or 7, and I was already doing like plays, theater.
Okay.
Theater was really like what I could do back then in Scotland. There wasn't so much, a lot of television shows being shot there. So I did a lot of plays, and then I moved to London after I graduated, and I got a very small role in a show called Footballers' Wives. And then I got a small role in another hit show called EastEnders, and it sort of snowballed from there.
Right.
And then I decided that for all other actors out there will relate to this, is that you need to have another income while you do what you really want to be doing.
Right.
So I saved up money, and I bought a property, and then I bought another one and another one, and it's kind of snowballed. And I thought,
Wow.
right, I have a business that will pay my way while I do what I want to be doing. And then also I set up a talent agency in Scotland, not for actors, but it was models and
I
dancers
see.
and
Okay.
entertainers,
Wow.
to help other talent, but it felt like I couldn't do it within the acting world because it'd be conflict of interest. It wouldn't make sense. So that agency is now a family-run business, and it's still there today.
Really? Wow. Fantastic.
And I
Wow.
still have my property company, which is, I try and keep growing it. So I would say to other actors who are starting out, if there's a business that you can create that gives you the opportunity to have a passive income, then that's what you want to be concentrating on, so that
Right.
it allows you to then fully concentrate on your acting while this is making you money in the background. And of course, you have to look after that, but something that's more passive, so that you still have the time for what you really want to be doing.
Well, that's fantastic. That's the first time I heard that, but I think it's awesome that you
Yeah.
had the foresight to prepare. And that's one thing we talked about in an earlier podcast, is the ability for an actor when they come to Hollywood to have some kind of financial game plan to
Yeah.
keep themselves going. Because as you pointed out, it's rough. So you've been doing this for a while, and then came to the US, and that's when you had that little epiphany. Well, geez, I've been here for a little bit, I'm assuming, and it just wasn't breaking through the way you'd liked. And then you had that one thing that happened that really took you to the next level. And
Yeah.
it allowed you to continue. That's why it's very important for you. It's sometimes, boy, even as a manager, sometimes you say, "What am I doing?" It's time
Oh,
to,
yeah, of course. Like,
and so we can all relate together on that hurdle. And you just got to keep at it and never quit. And you never know what break may come your way when you're the lowest.
that's it.
Just never
And
know.
it's the minute you don't love something, then find something else you love, because this is not an industry for the faint-hearted. So
No,
you really have to really love what you're doing. And I absolutely love what I'm doing. I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to make Gaming for Love. Like, I wrote, produced, directed it, so I have a love now for like directing,
right.
as well as the acting. And so I'm not even begun, I'm on a path that I know where I'm going and what I want. And I think that's really important within this industry, to have a goal and to have know where you're going, and create a strategic plan as to get you to what it is that you want to do, and your purpose, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And it's great that you have the foresight to be able to do that and continue on that path. Is this the first film you directed?
I directed a documentary that was about a famous musician, or a Scottish musician. And I got really lucky with that. We had no budget. And again, we just decided, right, we're going to make this. We had a plan, and we reached out to everybody. And in the end, I got really lucky, got Elton John, Rod Stewart, Joe Walsh. I got all these interviews, and made a really nice documentary. I still have it. And so that was my first project. And so I got a lot of the cobwebs out the way. Even though documentary is slightly different, there's a lot of
Right.
things that are very similar. So it's terms of producing. But this is my first short film.
Congratulations. The documentary, is that up anywhere where people can see it, or are you currently
No,
not?
not yet. It's not yet. I was in talks with BBC, so I can't.
Oh, I see. Cool. Excellent. Well, that's great. You got some really great names there. That's really an awesome start for your first directorial debut film.
How's it going, everybody? It's Jake from the Down the Middle Podcast, and I'm going to take a quick moment to invite you to check out our show, which airs every other Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on YouTube. If you love pro wrestling, you're definitely going to want to check this out. We talk about the latest in pro wrestling.
AEW's pay-per-views are rough, man, and it's obvious, like, Tony Khan is booking for Tony Khan, and it's obvious because Tony Khan has clinical freaking ADHD, but the kind where, like, you can hyper focus on the thing you love. And he's like, I legitimately want to watch wrestling for 7 hours. It's like, Tony.
Not everybody else does.
Hardly anybody else does.
We talk about some of our favorite things in pro wrestling.
One of the best promos ever. Like, can we just say, like, I had fucking goosebumps. And here's the thing, I know it's a work, but I'm watching that and I'm like, I think MJF might have duped somebody.
And we have a hot take here and there too.
Nothing against Riho. It's just like, do you think the audience is f***ing stupid? Riho weighs 98 pounds.
The vast majority of great moments in professional wrestling have nothing to do with the move. Don't get me wrong. The moves are part of it. Cena's like, I don't even remember how I won. Everybody remembers this.
But the best part about our show is that you are part of the conversation. So check out the show and join in the fun.
I mean, yes, going back again to the whole acting part, you obviously were doing some work here, I believe, before self-tapes really started kicking off, if I get that kind of right. How do you feel about the whole self-tape versus being in person? A lot of actors question that and have different opinions of that process.
Great. Yeah, great question. You know, I like to meet people. I'm a wee bit old. I'm a people person, so I think it's important if you can get in the room, then get in the room because you know you need to meet these casting directors, casting assistants, and it's so much. I mean, we all can relate. When you meet someone in person, it's a different vibe. It's a different
right.
So I would say if you have the opportunity versus putting yourself on tape, then take that opportunity. Self-tapes, yeah, it's great because you can get it to the point where you're like, I nailed that. And then you're on take number 5, you know. So it does have its benefits for sure. Right. But I still think if you can get in the room, I would definitely make that choice.
Right. It's become unfortunately much more challenging, especially since COVID, to get into the room. And that's why many actors, I think, and it's a good approach, is to do the casting workshops. And sometimes they're in person, sometimes they're not, but at least you're getting personal time with that particular casting director and they get to know you.
Yeah, that's
personally.
True.
So, but it is a little rougher right now. One thing that a lot of casting groups do with the casting process is do a Zoom audition. So you have the option to do a virtual Zoom, which is always helpful. Either you're not there in person, at least you're live looking at someone on camera and you're interacting with them and they get to give you direction on film. That's also helps versus the self-tape process.
Absolutely.
Do you find that certain roles so basically you couldn't really answer this question in that you found that you kind of got typecast into a particular role, which is a great role, Marilyn Monroe, of course, but then you found that it was time to break out. And what made you make that decision to try and go different directions?
Well, I still love playing Marilyn Monroe. Don't get me wrong; she was a big challenge for me, because she's such a colorful, brilliant character, and much loved. So it's a challenge in terms of you have to get it right, and you're not going to please all of her fans,
right?
Because everybody has a different take on what she means to them, so you're not going to satisfy everybody. But I feel like the feedback that I got was tremendously, surprisingly great. So I'm very grateful for that. Well, it was more to do with like challenging myself rather than anything else. I think it's good to diverse as much as you can. Of course, if you look a certain way, you sound a certain way, you're female, whatever, naturally you're going to play a role that's suited best to who you are. But if you can diverse that slightly, then why not? You know, it's a new challenge.
Great, that's a great answer. I'm glad that you brought that up because you've said so much in such a short period of time, which is awesome. Did How do you feel about Hollywood now, or the way it is now versus when you first came here? It's changed a lot. What are your feelings about it now? Just from a curiosity standpoint, in terms of the studios and how the business has changed over the years.
It's interesting. I feel like yes, it has changed since I moved here. Yeah, definitely. I was definitely more excited about it back then, you know, going for the auditions and it's all
Right.
very exciting. Um, Now it's just like normal now. It's life, right?
Right. It's a routine.
Yeah. It's changed. Not, I wouldn't say for the better or for the worse. I would say that it's a shame that there's potentially not as many roles out there anymore. There's less, I feel like there's less being made. But then when you go on Netflix or whatever else, it doesn't really look that way.
Right.
But I feel that you don't necessarily have to be in Hollywood anymore.
That's the key point. That's what I was gonna, as a follow-up to what you just said. I mean, there's a lot of stuff being filmed and produced, but unfortunately, a lot of it's not a lot, but certain percentages being filmed somewhere else now outside of Hollywood. The center is still here, and the castings here, and the studios are here, which is great. It's important for us as a management firm to be here, but from the standpoint of making independent films, they're done just about everywhere now.
Yeah.
Even the castings that you see for the series, there's a certain amount that are done here. There's a certain amount that are done other places in the country and around the world. So there are a lot of options, but it's opened up the world. Before it was just really Hollywood centric. Went back a number of years ago. Now it's world centric. When you look at things, especially with self-taping, right? Casting can look at people from almost all over the world for a particular role.
Absolutely.
And not just in Hollywood when it was more in-person auditioning. So there are some advantages and disadvantages in the current environment, but you made a big impact. So let's now circle back, since you covered so much in such a concise manner. It was great. Let's circle back to your promotion of your film that you started talking about. You mentioned about you had a poster, or you have some things you want to share, or
Well, yeah, so obviously the film is now in contention for best live action short film.
right.
And I was very lucky that it got this far and hopefully, you know, it gets to the next level. And I have, you know, lots of people who have came to me and they have liked the film so much. They're like, we want to give you a review. Like even like celebrities, David O'Hara, Kristen Dalton, the McCartneys. So it's been really it's been a great experience, and I would say to anybody who's out there, if you have an idea for a film, just go shoot it. You know, if you can, raise the money, do GoFundMe, whatever you need, call favors. And even if you don't feel like it's good enough, then that's okay. At least you tried, at least you did it, and show around, because you might not think it's good enough, but other people might think it's good enough. So that would be my one thing to express to everybody out there is just go and do it, like try. The film for me itself, so it's about a little girl who's terminally ill, and she can't go out and play with other kids because she just doesn't have that kind of energy. And so she turns to gaming, computer gaming. And our parents obviously don't quite understand gaming. They just feel like she's isolated in her room. And I don't want to give too much away, but
Yeah, of course. Don't do that.
yeah, but ultimately this story has a twist to it. And it all circles around love, and it all circles around how people can come together in a community in a time of need, and how people can basically impact other people around the world. It's a phenomenal story. And like I said, I had taken different stories and put it all together and came up with Gaming for Love. And I can't wait to let people see it, because everybody who's seen it so far has felt from it, and that's, I know my job is done.
And I think you kind of already covered this question, but for any young directors out there, any advice or tidbits you might give them as they're starting their career and directing?
I would say make sure your story is bulletproof, in terms of like, if you do it and you think, the story's okay, you know, it needs a little work, don't do it. Work on the story. Make sure your story is solid and that you're comfortable enough to be like, yes, this is it. This is the story, because that's your first foot almost. And then from there on, it will make your life easier.
Great comment. And that's the heart of a film is the story.
Yeah.
Without that, it really isn't anything really. So it's a great comment. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Where is there anything else you'd like to talk about your career at this point or your film before we wrap things up? Or
ooh, yeah, of course. No, so the other thing, I'm also, because I played Marilyn, I got lucky and I got record deal with Serdica Records to basically be a recording artist and record the 1955 songs, which was fantastic. And we branched out into doing a different sort of vibe, more sort of retro pop. I have a song that just came out called Hollywood. But I also wrote a song and I put it into the movie. So I would say that for those singer-songwriters out there, getting one of your songs on a score is gonna help you. So I wrote and produced a song with two amazing Luca and Sandy, two amazing musicians, producers, and we created a song called Love for the Game, and that's the theme song for the movie. So there's different, all I would say is, like, for singer-songwriters, is that it would be a good move for you to look at movies that are in post-production and see if your song is relatable to the story that you can find on IMDb, and reach out to them, because that will help your career.
that's great comment. And so where can the public or viewing public, where can they find you if they want to look you up and learn more about you? I think you have a website, is that correct?
So it's eringavin.biz, but I'm on social media, so I'm pretty easy to find, I think. It's just my name, Erin Gavin. I think on Instagram it's Erin Gavin Artist. I think someone stole my name, so I had it.
That's right. And that's where we found each other, on Facebook. That's hard. That's unusual, but it does happen. There are good people on Facebook. There are good people.
I love Facebook, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And you do some great posts on there, and it's a wonderful, I guess meta is the appropriate terminology, the meta universe. So
oh yeah, that's right.
right. So eringavin.biz is the website, and then your name, yes. Erin Gavin, ERINGAVIN for Facebook, and then Erin Artist on Instagram, of ERIN, then Artist, I believe, is the Instagram handle, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Erin, it was really awesome seeing you and spending time with you at the Marilyn Monroe event for our veterans this past few days.
Yeah, that was fun.
We'll look forward to your film, and I'm going to wish you the best on
Thank you.
That thing getting picked. Not that thing, but that film, that creative process. Thing's not the right word.
We just have to, just try everything, like, within obviously the Academy guidelines, to just, hope for the best and try and make people a little bit aware of it. And fingers crossed I get the opportunity to share it later down the line on one of the streaming services.
Okay.
For the world to see.
Awesome. Very good. We wish you the best, and we look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Yeah, thanks very much, David, for having me on the show. I
Sure
love
thing.
it. Love
Great
it.
having you. Great talk. Have a
You
great
too.
day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.